Welcome back to Yankee Chronicle. Today we are being hosted by Ragged Mountain Resort here in Danbury, New Hampshire. Now we head over the Kearsarge Mountain to Warner for an introduction by Charlie Albano by their new town mural. Hi, Charlie.
About a year and a half ago, the Warner Economic Development Committee thought it would be a good idea in a way to stimulate the local economy to create a mural on a vacant wall in Warner. So after we talked to the owners of the building, Bob Egan and Rhonda Rood, they absolutely agreed that it would be a great project. So with that, the Economic Development Committee created a panel of 8 judges, and those judges would eventually look at 8 applications that we sent out statewide. Muralists from New Hampshire only were qualified. Once the 8 applications were submitted, those 8 applications were dwindled down to 3. Those 3 muralists then gave a more detailed rendering of what the mural would look like. The theme of the mural was Warner's 250th anniversary, which comes in 2024. So the eventual winner, Jill Bitbender from Manchester, was awarded the grant, if you will. And what she did, the reason that she won, was she came to Warner. She went to the Historical Society. She talked to a number of local residents about what is Warner. And with those old photographs that she reviewed and pictures that she was given, she created the mural behind us. So with that, the whole process was about a year and a half. I wrote a grant to the New Hampshire Arts Council for $3,700. The rest of the money was raised locally. Local businesses, the Fall Foliage Festival. The total grant, the total operating budget was about $11,000, and $6,000 went to the muralist. So there are 22 panels that Jill worked on separately in her studio in Manchester. And if you take a look from the top left, you can see the theater in back of Bookends. And that's a festive activity that happens during the summer, all summer. The mural is then divided between a darker shade and the brighter shades, the darker shades actually representing history. And so you can see the mill. There were 2 mills back in at least 1974 when I moved here, and that represents the mill workers. You then continue to the right, and again in the darker gray, you can see a representation of Native Americans who did live in Warner. Continue to the right panel, that's Mount Kearsarge and fall foliage colors. You can then see next to the Mount Kearsarge, there's skiers. In back of me, there's the Mink Hills. And the Mink Hills back post-World War II, there was a snow train that came up from Boston, and people from Boston would get off the train and ski in the Mink Hills. So it was a rope tow that actually I skied on back in 1974, and many of the kids locally grew up on that slope. Continuing more to the right, there's hikers on Mount Kearsarge, and the railroad station. Warner had at least 2, and that depicts one of the railroad stations in Warner. I believe that's the Waterloo Warner railroad station. Back down here to the lower left is the telephone museum. And Warner had a telephone company, one of the first in New Hampshire. And if you go down Main Street, you can go to the museum, the telephone museum. The next panel is the Warner Market. And as you know, Warner has multiple organic farms here in town, and that represents some of the local farmers and artisans. continue to the right, Jill reviewed a number of pictures, and she pulled out houses. Those aren't necessarily exactly where they are, but represents the type of homes and houses that did and do exist in Warner. Sheep, the sheep farm, Warner, like many rural New Hampshire communities, had sheep farms. Continuing to the right, you can see the oxen, which was activity here in town for both farming and other functions. And you can see, continue to the right, the maple syrup producers, and both old and new. So again, a blending of the old and new. You have, again, in the gray, representing the history, and the currently Warner is very famous for its good maple syrup. Continuing to the right, you'll see a covered bridge and the Warner River, and you'll see in the shadows there, maybe not very well, but a Native American fishing the Warner River, as well as father and son. Just coming back here again, there is, in this picture, you can see a weaver who made the baskets, who was a black gentleman from Warner, and again, part of our history. The reason, other than Warner's 250th anniversary, is to stimulate the local downtown. People like covered bridges come to see murals, and we hope that people will come to town, see the mural, and visit some of our local shops and businesses on Main Street. So the mural is located right on Kearsarge Mountain Extension, and it's on Main Street, next to Reed's North, a new restaurant in town. One of two new businesses, Reed's and The Kitchen, also on Main Street. So come to Warner and see us.
Thanks, Charlie. What a great way to publicly illustrate a town's history. When we return, Jean Connolly will tell us about the new Area Arts Atlas and how it can be useful to you. Let's first take a break for a few words from the businesses that make our show successful. It can only continue if you buy local.